All right, so the other things we wanted to cover was really just summarising how to set up your work environment to work from home, because this is something very new for people. And we talked about it a little bit earlier about your environment. Now, your environment, as much as your clothing makes a difference to your state and what identity you step into, your room in your house. So if you're working from home, rule number one, do not work from your bed, because a bed is for sleep and intimacy. That is all. When we start to mix up work with rest and pleasure, then it actually creates what we call an anchor. So we attach work and you'll start to affect your sleep patterns. Ideally is set up a room in your house that is your office, a room with a door. So then you can go, okay, bye everyone, I'm going to work now. And you go to work. You close the door and go, right, I am at work. Avoid, and preferably somewhere that avoids distractions, because Netflix is in the next room. And if you've got kids that are home on school holidays or your school's closed, then they don't always understand. They want to come and play. So we just got to set up some routines and some boundaries straight away. So having a room so you can go to work, and going to work helps you be productive. But more importantly, at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I'm finishing work now, and you go home from work. When you walk out the door and you close the door in your office, you're like, okay, I'm home. That's really important. Now, not everyone has the luxury of having a room that they can set up as an office. So it's having a space in your house that you can isolate as that. And if a worst case scenario, you need to work at your dinner table, if you normally eat dinner or you have a seat that you normally sit at to eat your food, sit in a different place. So in one of our smaller houses previously, my wife and I, we would sit in particular spots for dinner if we sat down to eat together at the table. And we would have, because we run our own business together, we would have our strategic or board meetings at the same table. That was our board table, but we would sit in different positions and it would completely change the feel of it. So even if we were having a meeting, we'd do that and then, all right, clear the table. And then we would go back to jumping on to our old positions and then just eat dinner, and it creates that shift.
Cool.
That's one part. We talked about changing your clothes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And set some ground rules for the people in your home as well. If you've got kids and someone needs to be distracted, you might need a tag team with your partner if you're both working from home. Other things as well is you're used to particular colleagues that you might sit next to at work. Now all of a sudden you've got a new colleague who doesn't need to listen to what you tell them to do. Also, look, for a lot of couples, we're now at a point where they're possibly spending more time together than they have ever spent before. And if there are any little challenges in your relationship, they're going to get amplified in a work mode. So make sure you take the time to every week have a date night, which is, and you might not be going out, it's just like, okay, on Sunday night we do no TV, and we sit and have dinner at the dinner table, or it's movie night where we sit and we go to the movies at home and we pop some popcorn or whatever your thing is. So you connect with your most important people in your world, because, some people are not designed to live together and work together. Some people are fine. So you got to find that. And understanding people's communication style. So something that my wife and I discovered long ago, we originally had our home office set up where our desks were facing each other, and we recognized we did it for ages and it was fine, it worked. But the problem with this, your computer is right in front of you and you're in focus work mode all the time. Now what happens is just across the table there is your loved one, hopefully the person you care about most in the world, opposite you in that same moment. So when there's a conversation, it's often like, what do you want? It becomes a bit more abrupt. And you're like, oh, that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So we changed our workspace so we then sit next to each other. It seems really trivial, but it made a massive difference. It changed how we talk to each other. Our focus was on work. And then if we needed to have a conversation, we actually had to break away from that and turn and face each other and have a chat. The second thing that I noticed, so it's worth understanding, men, we are great at focusing. We are not good at jumping between tasks. And the reality is no one's good at jumping between tasks. But when you hear the cliche that women are better multitaskers, it's myth. No one can multitask. Women are just much better at jumping between different tasks. So this is something my wife and I discovered. If I'm in the focus of something and she asks a question, sometimes I don't hear her because I'm so focused. And that was a conversation we had to have, which was like, just please understand I'm not being rude. I'm not ignoring you. I'm so focused on things. I just don't hear you. Now, some partners won't want to hear that, but you need to have that conversation so that everyone understands.
Yeah.
And secondly is if I'm trying to multitask and she's asking me a more complex question, I won't be giving it enough attention to answer properly, and that will just annoy her. So
well, yeah.
we have this little conversation of I have to remember that sometimes she'll just jump in and ask a question, and I need to remember that. I need to acknowledge that, or at least go, can we talk about this in a moment? But then she also remembers that she'll just jump in out of habit and ask a question like, oh, that's right, he's focused. I'll ask him again in a minute. So when she asked me, oh, look, can I run this past you when you have a moment? I was like, great. I just finished sending this email and then we can chat. She's like, great. That early and that is like remembering, okay, so what did you want to talk about? And half the time she'll be, oh, no, that's right, I worked it out. And the other half the time, like, oh, okay, this is it. The other thing that we often ask is we all have these patterns, and I'll share these on our website as well. There's a few questions to understand how we naturally make sense of the world. There's a Metaprogram, which is our communication, part of our communication style. And a lot of people, some people are internal problem solvers and some people are external. In fact, most people are external, but if you're internal, the question to ask is, if you were to work on a problem, or if you needed to solve a problem, can you sit down and just work it out yourself? Or do you absolutely need to talk it out with someone? Now, some people will know they need to talk it out. My follow-up question when I ask people is like, oh, no, I can pretty much work it out myself. So the follow-up question is, if you sit down with a pen and paper and just work it out, do you come to a resolution, or do you need to share with someone first? They're like, oh, I need to share with someone first. Like, okay, just shortcut it straight to talking it out to someone. And even if that person doesn't give you feedback on that problem, the process of organizing your thoughts into a way that someone else understands usually solves a problem for you. So like, I got it. Yeah. So it's literally the process of speaking it helps solve the problem. So if you are one of those people, or if you've got two people in the same room who are external problem solvers, you're going to find yourselves just running things past each other all the time. And that you get to the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get anything done. We just chatted all day. So it's booking a bit of a time for that. And I'll ask my wife, it's like, look, do you need my feedback on this, or do you just need to talk it out? And if she says, I just need to talk it out, I was like, oh, great. So I carry on what I'm doing, and I'll do the very male response, like, interesting. And what will happen then is I'll just suddenly notice she stopped talking. Like, oh, did you get to the end? Did you solve that? She's like, yes, I did. Thank you. I'm like, oh, no worries. Didn't do anything, but that's it. Yeah. Or she'll say, okay, I need your feedback on this. Like, okay, then I know my male brain goes, I need to pay attention to this. Hold on, let me just finish this thing that I'm doing so I can close it off, and then we'll sit and give it my full attention. So there are a couple of just basic tips, but they're probably my biggest tips on communication, and a couple of examples on helping couples be able to do that. But then also decide if you need lunch breaks at separate times just to give yourself some space. But you need to communicate and work on how do you structure your day, and when is it a mentally focused task, and when is it not, and have that conversation. You actually need to speak it out. Don't just assume that they know that if I'm not talking to you, it doesn't mean that I don't love you. It means that I'm head down, bum up, getting some work done.
Yeah. I've got a little add-on to that for a principle that people use in co-working spaces. But if you've got two headphones in, it means don't talk to me. If you've got one headphone in, it means you can talk. I'm listening to music, but you can talk to me. If you've got no headphones in, it's come talk to me. You know, it's just one of those one of those things that you can use as a signal to the people around you that I've got my headphones in, even if there's no music on them. Like, it's just sometimes you put your AirPods in and just leave them in there, and there's no music on, so you can listen about what's going on, but at least you're putting that symbol there. Yep.
Nice. And look, I would suggest keep doing that at home as well, because there's something about doing this that kind of blocks out the whole world, and you get to spend time in your head. As far as structuring your day, do your headphone, do not disturb, get stuff done in the morning, and do your bit more creative thinking stuff in the afternoon is a good way of doing it. And with that kind of leads us on to making sure you've got a performance measure. Now, a lot of businesses, if they don't have clear performance measures for individuals, then the default goes back to time, which is I turn up to work at 9, I go home at 5, yay me, I get money magically appears in my bank account in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Now, and also the in person, when everyone's in the same space, that management, whatever their style is. The reality is, by being under the same roof, everyone's management or leadership style is satisfied by just being there. Now, all of a sudden, we need to have volition in how we manage different people, both as a group and then individually. But then having those KPIs means that without looking over someone's shoulder or feeling like they're going to get caught out, which is the motivator for the majority of people in an office environment, having those measures means that now if people are not working as long, they're still getting the work done, they're still earning their money, and you can remotely just check in how they're going, and when it's time to have a quick conversation, you go, hey, notice that this has dropped. What can I do to help you? What do you need? What problems are you facing? But also that individual can go, yeah, I'm on track. I got what I needed to do done today. I can pack up. Some people's trigger to go home is seeing everyone else go home. So these are little things that there's a whole bunch of little triggers that we're unaware of that are going to start to play out now too.
Yeah, awesome. All those things that you probably wouldn't think about normally if you were just going your normal day. And it must be so much confusion for people coming into their own workspace and trying to do their work from home for the first time. And not really knowing how to optimize that space is they would have to go through all these problems and challenges and thoughts and fights and like all those things by themselves. So yeah, it's really good points you're making. So yeah, appreciate you sharing.
No worries. Look, look, I've got plenty of other stuff we can talk about, but I think that probably gives people enough to go on with. I think the biggest thing that I really want to share is making sure that everyone just down just 2 or 3 things and implement them from right now, because knowledge is wonderful. It's all good to hear these things, but if you then hear these things and just go back to whatever you're doing, or I'll start that next week, it just won't happen. So just choose 1 or 2 things that you can implement from right now in this moment and start doing them. Even if it means you got to take an hour to rearrange your office or find a new space to work and set that up, go and do that, because you will earn that back multiplied over in productivity off the back of it.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thanks so much, Mark. I really appreciate your time today.
No worries. Thank you for having me.